Hey, we're live again. The parenting professor, Chris Peterson. I put on my Parapower shirt, and I was reflecting back to a conference we did, I don't even know, a year or so ago, for paraprofessionals. And one of the things that people really liked hearing about is how do we stop doing so much work in regards to solving kids' problems? And moreover, how do we hand those problems back to the kids with love and empathy and get them to not only become more resilient and skillful at solving their problems, but how do we get them to do it in a way that helps just build responsible young people? And the Love and Logic Institute really talks about a step-by-step approach. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Makes me feel good. I'm really starting to miss being in front of teachers and parents, so this is kind of one way for me to stay sharp a little bit and get my fix. So we talk about a 5-step approach to guiding kids to solve our problems. And the hardest part is realizing that kids are capable and able. And what we need to do sometimes is just step back and be like, is this something I have to do because it's convenient or easy, or I don't think my kid can handle it? Or is it something I can experiment with guiding or handing the problem back to my child? And let them, feel a little bit of struggle. When kids struggle and then achieve, we know that increases or up the odds that we increase self-esteem in young people. I always say there's no scratch and sniff reward system big enough on the planet to help build self-esteem. It comes from internal effort, struggle, and then accomplishment. So the 5-step approach. I'll just list them off. The first one is empathy. If you know anything about Love and Logic, we almost always enter a situation when we're disciplining or helping situations out with a strong dose of empathy. Empathy keeps kids in the frontal cortex, more prefrontal cortex, decision making, and empathy allows them to listen and keeps communications open a little bit longer. The sad part is true. The opposite is true. When we mess up, and we all have, and we yell or lecture, we drive them into brainstem mode, and that's not where good decision making happens or occurs. So step 1 is empathy. Step 2, we're going to do something called sending the power message. Step 3 is offer some choices. Step 4 is we ask the child to think, what are the consequences of that decision? And then step 5 is the hardest for a lot of us, and that's giving permission for the child to either solve or not solve the problem. So what would that look like? Oh gosh, what's a common problem? We're struggling. Some of us are struggling with online learning, and that's totally legit. Maybe a kid forgot a Zoom meeting. Maybe a child forgot to hand in electronically an assignment. So we could say something like, hey, Brenda, you noticed my shirt? Do you remember where that came from? Was that a CISA meeting? I think that was CISA. So we let's say a child's like, Dad, oh my gosh, I forgot to hand in this assignment, or I forgot to do this chore, I forgot to do that job, or I forgot about my basketball game. A lot of times kids forget things. Have you noticed that? So we lock it in with empathy. A lot of us, we want to kind of react and be like, what do you mean you forgot? Well, I told you, and if you get it, right? And I promise that reaction will drive them into brainstem mode, and then learning won't occur there, right? So we got to keep them in the thinking state. Dad, I forgot that. So here's step 1. Oh, sweetie, that must really stink. Or, oh man, I bet that hurts. Or I like this one. Oh, that's so sad. Okay, lock it in with empathy. There might even be a hug involved. Step 2, we send the power message. I love this language. What do you think you're going to do? Dad, I lost my blah, blah, blah. I didn't hand this in. Oh, honey, that stinks. What do you think you're going to do? Well, a kid will probably look at their shoes and shrug and say something strange like, I don't know. So then we offer some choices, and we don't need a long list, and they don't even have to be great. So we offer 1 or 2 choices, and here's the language that's very specific here. Sometimes it's easy to be like, well, here's what you should do. Instead, we like to use language like, would you like to hear what some kids have tried? Would you like to hear what some students have done in the past? Right? So we get them thinking about, it's a question. Did you notice that? It's a question, and questions create thinking. So we say something like, would you like to hear what some kids have tried? And most kids will be like, I guess. Some kids will be like, nope, don't care. Well, then instead of pushing that boundary, we just say, well, if you change your mind, let me know, and I'd be happy to share some of those ideas with you. But most kids will say something like, I guess. So then we have a couple options here. A short list. Some kids email their teachers and ask how they could get that in and not be late. Or some kids, call a friend and ask them what they should do. And then after every option, I like to ask this question, because this question is very simple, and it says, and what it does is it helps with develop cause and effect thinking. Sweetie, some kids email their teacher and ask for an extension. And here's the question: how do you think that'll work for you? Or how do you think that'll work? Right? When we start getting kids in that thinking mode, and we ask them questions like, how do you think that's going to work? It creates this neural pathway of cause and effect, where they start thinking, my choices directly can predict my future, right? My choices are mine, and when I'm thinking clearly, they can help me determine my future. So some kids email their teacher, how do you think that'll work for you? Well, I don't know. Well, some kids just, blow it off and realize it's just one list of a long list of assignments, and it probably isn't going to hurt you. And they decide to do better next time. How do you think, here's that question again, how do you think that'll work for you? Well, and sometimes kids will be like, I don't like any of those choices. Well, then step 5 is the hardest one. Well, sweetheart, good luck. I like this phrase. I hope it works out for you. I like even adding, let me know how it turns out. Depending on the relationship with the child, I might say something like, hey, just, I might even put a future deadline on that one. I might even say something like, hey, right before dinner, I'm just going to check in with you and see how that works. So again, empathy. You left your bike out and it got run over by the neighbor. That stinks, right? That's such a bummer. So what do you think you're going to do? Well, I don't know. Well, would you like to hear what some kids have tried? Well, some kids save up some money and do some raking. You can practice social distance with raking and save some money up and purchase a new bike. How do you think that would work? Well, I don't want to do that. I got so much stuff to. Well, I can understand that. Well, some kids just decide that they're going to spend the summer walking. How do you think that would work? Walk. I want my bike. And we don't have to get sucked into a power struggle there. And then we say, well, sweetheart, let me know how it turns out. If you need any other ideas, let me know. So that power of it's really a gift, giving the problem back to the child, not with here's what you do or lectures or anger, frustration, but really with empathy and a lot of love in your heart, and then a lot of questions. Empathy, send that power message. What do you think you're going to do? Do you want to hear what some kids have tried? How do you think that would work for you? Sweetie, buddy, pal, let me know how it turns out. Good luck. I can't wait to see how you fix this. And over time, when it becomes a habit, kids, sometimes they just say, Dad, here's what happened, but I got it taken care of. And that's when you just smile and nod and realize my life just got easier. So find those opportunities where you don't have to step in as the adult to solve the problem. Guide those kids to solve the problems themselves. I promise it'll increase self-esteem, and they'll start being more confident about how they navigate this world. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks, people, for listening. And if this was valuable for you, feel free to share it. I'll save it, and I'll put a handout in the comments here that you can a link that you could print out or save as well. So appreciate it so much. Oh, Brenda had a great point here, just chiming in. She said, I think a lot of us forget the empathy part. It's so easy to be like, what do you mean you forgot? Here's what you got to do. If I've told you once, I've told you what? 1,000 times. So love yourself enough to step back. Love your children enough to just open up with empathy. Find those sticky notes. Empathy. Oh, my phrase growing up, my phrase when I started with, this is such a bummer. Or I love this phrase, this is so sad. Lately, I just call it the empathetic groan. It kind of comes out like this. Oh. So thank you so much. Share it with your friends if you find it valuable. And we'll chime in from time to time and we'll offer some more. Have a great day. It's Friday. Woohoo!